I'm joined by Ian Chappell for his views on the second day of the third test at the WACA. Ian, it's been a breathless day's cricket and Australia are back in the Ashes.
Yes, I talked during the Adelaide test about England gaining the psychological advantage not just for the Adelaide test but ahead into the series, and I thought that they'd done that and were well ahead, and suddenly one rip-roaring spell from Mitchell Johnson and Australia not only back in it, but I think they've probably pulled about even in the psychological stakes. Quite an amazing turnaround from Mitchell Johnson. I was sort of thinking back to similar types of turnarounds by, just even restricting it to Ashes series, and the best I could come up with was Frank Tyson back in 1954-5. One for 160 in the first test in a losing effort, and then he took 10 for at the SCG in the next test match to help England win, and then they went on to win the series. Obviously Mitchell Johnson hasn't won this test match for Australia, but none for 160 odd I think in the Gabba test for him, and then 6 for fairly cheaply in the WACA test, and not just 6 wickets, but he looked like taking wickets, not so much the first evening but the second evening. And I mean, once you saw him swinging that ball and he got one to swing away from Cook and get that first wicket, you thought to yourself, hello, there's a bit of confidence here, and it was quite an amazing turnaround.
Well, Tyson famously required a bang on the head to turn him around. Johnson had a tap on the shoulders from the selectors. I mean, being left out in hindsight looks like the best thing for him. Yeah,
it was certainly, he said himself it was a kick in the backside that he probably needed, but it certainly worked. Whether he can, I guess what's going to be interesting is to see whether he can keep it going away from the WACA, because historically he's done extremely well at the WACA ground. So it's now a matter of whether he's technically fixed things up so that it's ongoing, or whether it's just the confidence that he has here at the WACA ground that has got him going in this game, and it doesn't sort of flow on. It's going to be interesting to follow his history from here.
A few weeks ago he said he wasn't even thinking about bowling the in-swinger in particular. He said he'd just forgotten how to do it, didn't know what to do about it. Suddenly it's right back there.
And it's a disconcerting, it's more of a swerve than an in-swing. And I think it would be disconcerting to face, because you normally, as a batsman, you expect the arm, when a guy is swinging the ball like that, you expect the arm to be reasonably high. There's no doubt that he's got it higher than he had early in the series, but it still looks to the naked eye like a bit of a round arm sling. And you're not really expecting, as a right-hander, you're not expecting that to swerve back in. And Collingwood's dismissal was a classic. I don't think Collingwood was expecting that ball to come back anywhere near as much as it did. In fact, really, I don't think he was going to play a shot, and just the last second he just brought the bat down, but it was miles too late. And it just shows you what an awkward customer he is when he gets the thing to swing in.
There was one England batsman who looked the part today, as he has done all series, Ian Bell. I mean, yet another 50, ran out of partners. Is it time to get up the order, do you think?
He's definitely got to go up the order. I really think he's an ideal number 3. He's certainly got the ability, and I think now, when he played at 3 before, he didn't have the confidence he's got at the moment, but he looks very confident. He's handling the short pitch stuff. Sure, Trott's done pretty well and he's got a terrific record against Australia, but I just think if you've got the ideal choice for a number 3 is a guy who can come in when the fall of an early wicket, he can survive against the new ball, and he can counter-attack. And if you haven't got one of those, then the next best option is a guy like Trott, who can come in after an early wicket and he can consolidate things. But to me, my first preference is always the guy who's got the ability to counter-attack. And I think if you moved Bell to 3, it would also help Peterson, because it would mean that Peterson, isn't expected to do all the dominating. He would get some help from the other end if Bell's out there, and he could just take his time getting into an innings if that's the way he felt. Certainly, if they don't move him to 3, which I doubt that England will do in the middle of the series, and it would be hard on Trott if they did do that, but certainly I think he's got to be pushed up ahead of Collingwood. He's a much more aggressive player than Collingwood, and also we saw him in Brisbane in the first innings where he got left with the tail. I think he could easily have got 100 in Brisbane if he'd had a bit more support. And the same thing here in Perth. I think in the end, the fact that he was with the tail enders probably helped to get him out.
And talking of number threes, I guess the big news for England in terms of staying in the game was getting Ponting cheap again. I mean, he's averaging 16 for the series. There's teams on top, but his form is rock bottom at the moment.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's so much his form. I think his form is okay. He certainly in the first innings, I thought his footwork looked really good. It didn't look like a guy who was out of form. What I'd say about him at the moment is he's out of luck. And once again, he gloved one down the leg side. Okay, he was a bit far across, but quite often you'll be too far across and you'll miss that delivery. But at the moment, as soon as he makes a mistake, he's out. And in between time, he seems to get a good one early on, and that knocks him over. So what I'd say about Ponting is he's out of luck rather than out of form.